You know, it's funny how life can feel like a game of musical chairs sometimes.
Yeah.
Everyone's dancing around, having a good time,
Uh-huh.
and then suddenly the music stops.
Right.
Everyone scrambles for a seat.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like when you're single,
Yeah.
and all your friends start getting married.
I can see that.
It's like everyone else found a chair.
Uh-huh.
You're left standing there
Right.
wondering what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not just a young person thing either.
No,
Even if you're older and if your kid's getting hitched,
that's true.
still feels like a major shift
It really does.
in the whole social landscape.
It's almost as if the rules of the game have changed.
Yeah,
You're not quite sure how to play anymore.
totally.
And that feeling of being on the outside looking in,
Yeah,
it can be tough,
it can.
regardless of your age.
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
How to navigate that feeling
Okay.
and actually thrive in this season of singleness.
Sounds good.
Our source material is an article
Okay.
titled, "Why Am I the Last Single One?
Okay.
Finding Joy and Purpose in Singleness Through God's Word."
All right.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
this article is packed with some surprising insights.
Oh, wow.
It's not about frantically searching for a partner,
Right.
but about making the most of this unique time in your life.
I like that.
So
Yeah.
what really struck me
Mm-hmm.
was the article's emphasis on learning from the past,
Yeah.
but without getting bogged down by it.
Okay.
It's not about dwelling on past relationship mistakes
Right.
or feeling guilty,
Yeah.
but rather using those experiences as stepping stones for growth.
One of the things that stood out to me right away was the article's emphasis on that.
Yeah.
Learning from the past without getting bogged down by it.
Right.
It's not about dwelling on past relationship mistakes or
Okay.
feeling guilty, but
Or
rather
Yeah.
using those experiences as stepping stones
Yeah.
for growth.
That's like watching a game film after a loss.
Yeah.
Not to wallow in defeat,
Uh-huh.
but to analyze your strategy.
Okay.
Figure out how to improve for the next game.
Exactly. The article even suggests a specific exercise.
Oh, really?
Journaling about past relationships
Okay.
to identify recurring patterns
Okay.
or areas where you might need to grow.
Interesting.
And get this,
Yeah.
it encourages sharing those reflections.
Oh, wow.
Maybe even mentoring someone else who
Real?
might be going through something similar.
Huh.
Your past experiences,
Yeah.
even the tough ones,
Okay.
could actually be a source of wisdom and help for others.
That's a really cool perspective.
Yeah.
It's like taking something that felt like a setback
Right?
and turning it into an opportunity for growth,
Exactly.
both for yourself
Uh-huh.
and for others.
It's about recognizing that every experience, even the ones that we might label as failures,
Okay.
can have a purpose in shaping us into who we're meant to be.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. The article talks about this idea of shifting your focus
Okay.
from what you don't have,
All right.
a spouse, a family,
Yeah.
to what you do have.
Okay.
This incredible opportunity to deepen your relationship with God
Right.
and really make a difference in the world.
It's about recognizing that our worth and our purpose aren't tied to our relationship status.
I like that.
Think about some of the most impactful figures in the Bible.
Right.
Paul, John the Baptist.
Uh-huh.
They were single,
Right.
and they accomplished extraordinary things.
That's true.
The article reminds us that singleness isn't a waiting room for life.
Yeah.
It's a time to pursue your passions,
Uh-huh.
to serve others,
Right.
and to discover God's unique calling for your life.
You know, I've always been struck by the story of Paul.
Yeah.
He was this incredibly passionate and driven individual,
Uh-huh.
and he used his singleness to travel the world, spreading the gospel
Right.
and building the early church.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what amazing things we could accomplish
Uh-huh.
if we viewed our own singleness as a launching pad
Yeah.
for something extraordinary.
Absolutely. And the article gives some practical suggestions
What is it?
for how to do just that.
I'm listening.
Getting involved in your church community,
Okay.
finding ways to serve those in need, taking on projects that align with your passions.
Okay.
It's about channeling that energy and focus
Yeah.
you might otherwise pour into a romantic relationship,
Mm.
into something that makes a real difference in the world.
And speaking of energy and focus,
Yeah.
let's talk about that social energy shift
Okay.
that happens when your friends start getting married.
Right.
It's like suddenly everyone's speaking a different language.
Right.
Conversations revolve around home renovations,
Yeah.
baby names,
Uh-huh.
and who's bringing what to the next potluck.
It's important to acknowledge that those social shifts can be tough.
Oh, yeah.
You might not see your friends as often. Conversations might not resonate in the same way.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel a sense of loss
Right.
or even grief over those changing dynamics.
So what do you do?
Like,
Become a hermit and avoid all social gatherings.
not at all. The article actually talks about the importance of both
Okay.
nurturing existing friendships
Okay.
and forging new connections.
Interesting.
Remember,
Yeah.
we are wired for connection,
Okay.
regardless of our relationship status.
That's true.
So yes, stay close to those old friends,
Good.
be honest with them about how you're feeling, but also be open to meeting new people
Oh,
who might be in a similar stage of life.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that verse.
Oh, yeah.
Two are better than one.
It's a good one.
It's not about replacing your married friends,
Right.
but about expanding your circle,
Okay.
experiencing the richness of diverse friendship.
I like that.
Single married people from all walks of life.
That's awesome.
It's what keeps things interesting, wouldn't you say?
I completely agree. Different perspectives and experiences
Right.
enrich our lives
Yeah.
and help us grow in ways we might not expect.
Totally.
It's about building a community
Yeah.
that supports and encourages you,
Right.
no matter what season of life you're in.
And speaking of seasons of life,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to address the pressure
Okay.
that often comes with being surrounded by couples.
All right.
That pressure to catch up,
Mm-hmm.
to find someone,
Yeah.
anyone,
Right.
just so you don't feel left out.
The article has a powerful message about that.
Oh, it does.
It cautions against rushing into a relationship
Okay.
just to conform to societal expectations.
So it's not about finding someone to fill a single person's slot
Right.
in your life,
Exactly.
but about seeking a genuine connection
Right.
built on shared values, mutual respect,
Uh-huh.
and of course, love.
It's like saying, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not just looking for a warm body to sit next to me on the couch.
Right.
I'm looking for someone who truly gets me,
Yeah.
someone who challenges me to be my best self, someone who I can laugh with,
Yeah.
cry with,
Yeah.
and do life with.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect segue
Yeah.
into what the article says about seeking God's guidance
Okay.
in relationships.
Yeah.
It's about letting go of that need to control the timeline,
Right.
trusting that God will bring the right person
Uh-huh.
into your life at the right time.
Mm.
That whole idea of trusting God's timing
Yes.
is so much easier said than done right.
It really is.
It's easy to look around and think,
I know.
okay, God, I'm ready.
Uh-huh.
What's the holdup?
Exactly.
But the article really challenges us
Okay.
to shift our focus from the when to the who.
That's a powerful distinction. It's
Right.
not just about finding anyone.
Yeah,
It's about becoming the right person for someone.
I like that.
It's about using this time
Okay.
to grow in our faith,
Oh.
to develop our character,
Right.
to clarify our values so that
Now.
when we do meet that special someone,
Yeah.
we're ready for a healthy, thriving relationship.
So instead of getting swept up in the comparison game,
Right.
who's
Yeah.
dating, who's getting engaged,
Yeah,
who's posting those picture-perfect couple photos on social media.
exactly.
It's about focusing on becoming the best version of yourself.
And that's where the article's emphasis on gratitude comes in.
Okay.
It's about actively choosing to focus on the good things in your life,
Yeah.
even the small things.
Okay.
And acknowledging the unique gifts and talents
Yeah.
that God has given you.
I think that's where a lot of us struggle, right?
I think so too.
We get so caught up in what we don't have
Right.
that we forget to appreciate all the blessings
Yes.
that are already present in our lives.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And that's why practices like gratitude journaling,
Mm-hmm.
writing thank you notes,
Okay.
or simply taking a few moments each day
Yeah.
to reflect on the good things
Right.
can be so transformative.
Okay.
It's about intentionally shifting our perspective
Yeah.
from lack to abundance,
Yeah.
from scarcity to gratitude.
You know, I've tried that gratitude journaling thing,
Uh-huh.
and it really does make a difference.
It does.
It's like you start to rewire your brain
Yeah.
to see the good,
Right.
to notice those little moments of joy
Mhm.
that might have otherwise passed you by.
It's amazing how powerful a simple shift in perspective can be.
It really is.
And remember that beautiful verse from Psalm 139.14,
I love that one.
you are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
You are unique, valuable,
Yeah.
and loved just as you are.
And that's a truth worth holding on to,
That is.
especially when you're feeling that pressure to conform
Right.
or that pang of loneliness
Yeah.
that can sometimes creep in.
Absolutely.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think this conversation has actually helped me
Okay.
to reframe how I view singleness.
Oh,
Instead of seeing it as this awkward in-between stage,
right.
it's more like,
An adventure.
yes, an adventure,
I like
a time for self-discovery,
Right.
for pursuing your passions,
Right.
for making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that's special to someone will just happen to walk into your life
It could happen.
while you're busy living your best life.
That's a great way to look at it. It's
Right.
about embracing the journey,
Yeah.
trusting God's timing,
Yeah.
and finding joy in the present moment.
Right.
And that, my friends, is a recipe for a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
Whether you're single or married.
I love that.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah. Building on that idea of embracing the journey and finding joy in the present moment, the article subtly hints at something really profound. The
Uh-huh.
concept of contentment. Contentment, huh? That's one of those words that sounds lovely in theory, but can feel like a distant galaxy when you're bombarded with images of perfect couples and blissful families. Like, sure, contentment sounds great, but first let me find someone to be content with.
I hear you. It's almost as if we've been conditioned to believe that happiness is this external thing, something we achieve once we have all the right pieces in place, the perfect partner, the dream job, the Instagram-worthy house. But what if true contentment comes from a deeper place?
Okay, I'm intrigued. What if contentment isn't about what we have, but about how we see what we have?
That's exactly where I think the article's message about shifting our focus to God becomes really powerful. True contentment, lasting joy.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from checking off boxes on a societal to-do list, but from a deep, abiding sense of peace and security in our identity as children of God. So it's not about denying those desires for love and companionship, but about recognizing that our worth and our happiness aren't contingent on whether or not we're in a relationship.
You got it. It's about saying, okay, God, I trust you. I trust that you have a plan for my life. And even if that plan doesn't include a spouse right now, I'm going to choose to find joy in the present moment, in the blessings you've already given me.
That's a beautiful way to frame it. Surrendering our anxieties and uncertainties to a higher power and trusting that there's a bigger picture unfolding, even if we can't see it yet.
And when we do that, when we let go of that need to control the timeline or force things to happen, it frees us up to actually experience the blessings that are already present in our lives. It's like we've been wearing blurry glasses and suddenly we can see clearly again.
I love that analogy. It's like we start noticing those everyday miracles, a beautiful sunset, a heartfelt conversation with a friend, the aroma of freshly baked bread, things we might have overlooked when we were too busy focusing on what we were lacking.
And that gratitude we talked about earlier, that's a key ingredient in cultivating contentment. It's about actively choosing to appreciate the good things in our lives, no matter how small they may seem.
You know, it's funny. The article doesn't explicitly use the word comparison, but it's woven throughout the entire piece. It's almost as if you can't talk about singleness without addressing that nagging feeling of, why not me? Or when will it be my turn?
It's definitely the elephant in the room, especially in a culture that often equates marriage with happiness and success. But I think that's why the article's emphasis on finding your purpose, on serving something larger than yourself is so crucial. When you're focused on making a difference in the world, it becomes a lot harder to get caught in that comparison trap.
You're not so preoccupied with what everyone else is doing because you're busy doing something that lights you up, something that gives you a sense of meaning and fulfillment.
And that sense of purpose can come from so many different places. Maybe it's volunteering at a local homeless shelter, mentoring a young person, leading a Bible study, or pouring your heart into a creative project. The key is to find something that taps into your unique passions and talents, and use those gifts to make the world a little brighter.
I think it's also important to reframe the way we view singleness. Instead of seeing it as a deficiency, as this empty space that needs to be filled, what if we saw it as an opportunity? An opportunity for growth, for adventure, for making a real difference in the world.
I love that, an opportunity, because it truly is. It's a time to invest in ourselves, to develop our skills, to travel, to learn new things, to deepen our relationship with God.
And to build strong, supportive friendships. Remember, as the article points out, we're called to community, regardless of our relationship status.
Absolutely. Those friendships are like anchors in the storms of life. They offer encouragement, laughter, accountability, and a safe space to be ourselves, even when we're feeling lost, uncertain, or maybe a little lonely.
And those friendships can blossom in unexpected places. It might be at church, at a book club, at a volunteer organization, or even at the dog park. The point is to put yourself out there, to be open to making new connections, and to remember that you're not alone in this journey.
And don't underestimate the power of being a good friend to others. Sometimes the best way to combat loneliness is to focus on being there for someone else, to offer a listening ear, a helping hand, or a word of encouragement.
It's like that saying, you can't keep a cup full if you're always pouring out. When we focus on giving to others, on being a source of love and support in their lives, we often find that our own cup gets filled in unexpected ways.
It's that beautiful reciprocity that exists in genuine human connection. We give, we receive, and in the process we create a web of support and love that sustains us all.
And speaking of love, I think the article touches on something that's often overlooked in discussions about singleness, the freedom that comes with it.
Oh, absolutely. The freedom to make your own choices, to pursue your own dreams, to travel on a whim, to invest your time and energy in the things that matter most to you, without having to negotiate or compromise with a partner.
It's not about saying singleness is better than marriage. It's about recognizing that each season of life has its own unique advantages and challenges.
And choosing to embrace the good in wherever you are right now.
Right. Exactly. And that's where faith comes in again, trusting that God has you in the palm of his hand, that he sees you, he loves you, and he's not going to waste a single moment of your life.
Every season, every experience, it's all part of his grand tapestry. And even when we don't understand the why or the how, we can rest in the assurance that he's working all things together for our good.
That's a beautiful image, seeing our lives as part of a larger masterpiece. Even when we're just focused on our own little corner of the canvas, it's about trusting in his timing, embracing the journey, and finding joy even when things don't go according to plan.
You know, this conversation reminds me of a quote by Elizabeth Elliot. The secret is Christ in me, not me in a different set of circumstances. It's about finding our contentment, our joy, our purpose, not in our external circumstances, but in our relationship with God.
So let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to embrace this season of singleness, to find that contentment purpose you're talking about.
I'm
But where do I even begin?
That's a great question. And I think the article gives us some concrete starting points. Remember those practical steps we discussed earlier? Learning from the past, shifting our focus to God, building new friendships, not rushing into marriage, and combating comparison with gratitude. Those are all fantastic places to start.
And it's not about doing it all perfectly, right? It's a process, a journey of learning and growing. Some days will be harder than others. There will be moments of doubt, loneliness, and frustration. But it's in those moments that we need to lean into our faith, into our community, and into the truth that God is with us every step of the way.
And that he has a plan for us, even when it doesn't look like what we expected.
You know, it's so easy to get caught up in the when will I get married? When will I find my soulmate? When will my life finally begin? But what if we shifted our focus to the who? Who is God calling me to be right now in this season?
Wow, that's powerful. Shifting from the when to the who. Because ultimately, it's about becoming the best version of ourselves, the person God created us to be. And that's a journey that unfolds over a lifetime, not just in a particular relationship status.
So if you're feeling lost, uncertain, or maybe a little discouraged, remember this. You are not alone. You are loved. You have purpose. And this season of singleness, it's not a punishment. It's a preparation.
It's a time to grow, to learn, to discover, to become.
And who knows? Maybe in the process of becoming who you're meant to be, you'll just stumble upon the love you've been searching for.
It's certainly possible. But even if you don't remember this, your worth is not tied to your relationship status. You are complete. You are valuable. You are loved, just as you are.
And that, my friends, is a truth worth celebrating.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier. The importance of not rushing into marriage just to fit in.
Right. Because as tempting as it might be to try to fast forward through this season of singleness, the article makes a really compelling case for letting relationships develop organically, without forcing or manipulating the process.
And that takes a certain level of trust, both in God and in ourselves. It's about believing that God will bring the right person into our lives at the right time, and trusting our own judgment to discern when that time has come.
It's about being patient, being discerning, and being willing to walk away from relationships that aren't aligned with God's will for our lives, no matter how much pressure we might be feeling from our family's friends or
Right.
even society in general.
Because ultimately, we want a marriage that's built on a foundation of love, respect, and shared values, not just on the desire to check off a box on our societal to-do list.
And that takes time. It takes getting to know someone deeply, seeing them at their best and their worst, and discerning whether or not you're truly compatible, both on a human level and on a spiritual level.
It's about looking beyond the superficial, beyond the initial attraction or the shared interests, and asking those deeper questions. Do our values align? Do we share a common vision for our lives? Do we challenge each other to grow in our faith?
because those are the things that will ultimately determine the long-term success and happiness of a marriage.
And let's be real, it's not always easy to ask those questions, especially when you're caught up in the excitement of a new relationship.
Oh, tell me about it. It's so much easier to get swept away by the romance, by the butterflies, by the idea of finally finding the one.
But the article wisely reminds us that we need to be wise, to be discerning, and to seek God's guidance throughout the entire process.
It's about training for clarity, seeking counsel from trusted friends and mentors, and being willing to wait for God's timing, even when it feels frustrating or uncertain.
And that waiting, that period of singleness, it's not wasted time. It's an opportunity to prepare ourselves to grow in our faith, to become the kind of person who is ready for a healthy, God-honoring relationship.
And, while we've been focusing a lot on the challenges of singleness, I think it's important to acknowledge that marriage has its own set of challenges as well.
Oh, absolutely. Marriage is not a fairy tale. It's not a magical solution to all of life's problems. It's hard work. It requires sacrifice, compromise, forgiveness, and a whole lot of grace.
It's about learning to communicate effectively, to resolve conflict peacefully, to put the needs of your spouse before your own, sometimes even when you don't feel like it.
And it's about doing all of those things day after day, year after year, through the ups and downs, the joys and the sorrows that inevitably come with sharing your life with another human being.
So while it's natural to long for the companionship and intimacy of marriage, it's important to go into it with realistic expectations.
Because marriage is not a destination, it's a journey. A journey of two imperfect people learning to love and serve one another, to grow together and to become more like Christ in the process.
And that journey, it has its twists and turns, its mountaintop experiences, and its valley moments. But it's about two people choosing to walk through those seasons together, committed to loving and supporting each other through thick and thin.
And that's a beautiful thing.
It is. But you know what's also beautiful? The strength and resilience of those who choose to embrace singleness, who find joy and purpose in this season, and who trust God to write their love story in His perfect timing.
That's a powerful message. And I think it's one that needs to be heard more often.
Because singleness is not a waiting room for life. It's a season to be cherished, a time to grow, to serve, to discover, and to become.
And who knows? Maybe the greatest love story of all is the one you write with God.
That's a beautiful thought. Well, I think that's a great place to pause for now.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, and I think it's important to give our listeners some time to process all of this wisdom and insight.
We'll be back in a few moments to wrap up this episode and leave you with some final thoughts to ponder.
Until then, keep diving deep.
Welcome back to our deep dive into finding joy and purpose in singleness.
It's been a great conversation.
I don't know about you, but
Yeah,
I'm feeling super inspired.
me too.
We've explored some really profound ideas,
We have.
and I think it's time to
Yeah.
kind of bring it all home with some practical takeaways,
All right.
some actionable steps you can actually implement.
I love that you said actionable.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to talk about concepts like contentment and purpose,
Right.
but it's a whole other level to actually put those principles into practice
Yeah.
in our everyday lives.
Okay, so where do we begin?
Well, remember how the article emphasized the power of gratitude?
Yeah.
That's where I think we need to start.
Okay.
It's about consciously shifting our focus
Okay.
from what we lack to what we have,
Right.
from what's missing
Yeah.
to what's already present in our lives.
So it's like choosing to see the glass as half full instead of half empty, right?
Exactly.
But how do we actually make that shift?
That's a good question.
It's easy to say, be more grateful,
Right.
but how do we actually do that?
Well, it's about going beyond just feeling grateful
Okay.
and actually expressing that gratitude.
Oh,
It could be something as simple as keeping a gratitude journal,
okay.
just jotting down a few things
Mhm.
you're thankful for each day.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's writing thank you notes to people
Oh.
who have made a difference in your life.
Oh.
Or even just taking a few moments each morning to reflect on the good things,
Right.
big or small.
I tried that gratitude journal thing for a while,
Yeah,
and it was amazing how it shifted my perspective.
really.
You start to notice things you might have taken for granted before,
Yeah,
like a warm cup of coffee on a chilly morning,
right.
or a kind word from a stranger.
It's like training your brain to see the beauty
Yeah.
in the ordinary.
And you know what's interesting?
Always a
When we
perfect.
start to focus on the good,
Yeah.
we actually attract more good into our lives.
That's so true.
It's like this positive feedback loop
Right.
that just keeps expanding.
It does.
I've totally experienced that.
Me too.
The more grateful I am,
Uh-huh.
the more reasons I find to be grateful.
It's true.
It's like a snowball effect of positivity.
Yeah. And I can see how that could be especially powerful
Right.
when it comes to navigating singleness.
Right.
When you're focused on the blessings in your life, you're less likely to feel resentful or envious of what others have.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
So gratitude is step one.
Okay.
What's next on our list?
Well, the article also talked a lot about the importance of community,
Okay.
surrounding ourselves with a supportive network of people
Right.
who love and encourage us.
Yeah.
It's about nurturing those existing friendships,
Okay.
even if they're with people who are married,
Yeah.
and also being open to making new connections.
I think a lot of single people,
Yeah,
they feel like they're on the outside looking in when it comes to their friend groups,
that's true.
especially when everyone else starts pairing off and having families.
So
It's like they're in this exclusive club and you weren't invited.
that's a really common feeling.
Yeah.
But remember those friendships,
Yeah.
even the ones that have evolved,
Mm-hmm.
they still offer a sense of belonging,
Right.
a sense of connection.
Right.
That's so essential for our well-being.
And honestly, it's good to have friends who can give you a glimpse
Oh, yeah.
into what married life is actually like.
Yeah.
The good, the bad,
Uh-huh.
and the sometimes messy.
Right.
It's a reality check
Exactly.
that can help keep things in perspective.
It's about having a mix of friends,
Yeah.
single and married,
Yeah.
who can offer different perspectives,
Right.
different kinds of support,
Yeah.
and different kinds of fun.
And sometimes it takes being vulnerable,
Yeah.
being honest with those friends about how you're feeling,
Uh-huh.
even if it's messy or uncomfortable.
Right.
That's what true friendship is all about, right?
Absolutely.
Being there for each other through the ups and downs.
And if you're feeling isolated,
Yeah.
like you don't have that strong support system,
Okay.
don't be afraid to reach out.
Right.
Get involved in your church.
Yeah.
Join a local book club or hiking group, or even look for online communities
Right.
that share your interests or values. There are so many ways to connect with like-minded people
Yeah.
and build meaningful relationships.
And sometimes the best way to find community
Mm-hmm.
is to create it.
Oh, I like that.
Maybe it's hosting a game night,
Yeah.
starting a volunteer project,
Yeah.
or even launching that podcast you've been
Mhm.
dreaming about.
The possibilities are endless,
Yeah.
and you might be surprised by who shows up
Right.
and the connections that are made.
Yeah.
You might even discover hidden talents or passions
Yeah.
you never knew you had.
Okay, so we've got gratitude,
Okay.
we've got community.
Uh-huh.
What's next on our list of actionable steps?
Well, remember that powerful question from the article.
The one about if I could dedicate myself to something wholeheartedly.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Without any limitations, what would it be?
Oh, yeah.
That's a question we all need to grapple with,
Yeah.
regardless of our relationship status.
I like
It's about identifying those things that light us up, that give us a sense of purpose and meaning,
Right.
and finding ways to pursue them with all our heart.
It really gets to the core
It does.
of what we value,
Uh-huh.
what we're passionate about,
Yeah.
and what kind of legacy we want to leave behind.
Right.
But sometimes it's hard to even know where to start.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I want to do something meaningful.
Yeah.
But what exactly is that?
It's about taking action.
Oh,
Even if it's just one small step at a time,
yeah.
maybe it's signing up for that online course you've been eyeing,
Oh,
finally starting that blog you've been dreaming about,
Uh-huh.
or even reaching out to that mentor who inspires you.
It's like that old saying,
What's that?
a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
I like that.
You don't have to have it all figured out
Right.
from the get-go.
Exactly.
Just take that first step
Yeah.
and trust that the path will unfold as you go.
And remember, your singleness isn't a liability.
Right.
It's an asset. It's a time to explore, to learn to grow,
Yeah.
and to become the best version of yourself
Okay.
without the constraints or responsibilities
Yeah.
that often come with being in a relationship.
So if you're feeling stuck,
Yeah.
uncertain,
Uh-huh.
or maybe a little discouraged, remember this.
What's that?
You are not alone.
That's so important.
You are loved.
Yes.
You have purpose.
Uh-huh.
And this season of singleness,
Yeah.
it's not a waiting room for life.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to create a life you love.
Yes.
A life that is uniquely yours.
I love that.
And who knows?
Right.
Maybe in the process of pursuing your passions, of
Yeah.
becoming the best version of yourself,
Uh-huh.
you'll just stumble upon the love of your life.
It happens.
Right.
Or maybe you'll discover that the most fulfilling love story of all
Yeah.
is the one you write with God.
Either way, you're in for an incredible adventure.
You are.
So embrace this season, friends.
Yes.
And see where it takes you.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're
Right.
all in this together,
Yeah.
cheering each other on,
Right.
and trusting God to write a beautiful story
Yeah.
for each and every one of us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been fun.
We hope you found it insightful,
Mm-hmm.
encouraging,
Yeah,
and maybe even a little bit life-changing.
absolutely.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep
Oh.
diving deep.